Welcome back to the Wake Up and Be Wealthy show. We are talking how to plan 6 months worth of content in 6 days, y'all, with the amazing Shanel. We're so glad that you're here pouring into all the wealthy queens.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here. I cannot wait to dig into this topic and just really just get to know your listeners and how we can be able to help them be more wealthy, but with content.
Yes. Well, and I have a lot of conversations with women, and there is a lot of negative energy around content creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels heavy. It feels overwhelming. Marketing's always changing. We live
Mm-hmm.
busy lives. So before we even talk about how to create 6 months of content in 6 days, what would you say to that woman that is like, I'm struggling making one piece of content? What would you say to her?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Social media it can be so overwhelming. Let's just start there. So I work with coaches, consultants, brilliant women, brilliant wealthy queens who they recognize they need to be on social media. They recognize they want to build their business, but recognize that they're not marketing experts, right? And so how I sort of fit in is I'm just like you guys. Like I have, 3 teenage adult kids that are bouncing around. I have businesses that I operate out of my home. That's a topic for another day. My husband and I actually have a youth training facility that we run out of our home. But then I have my marketing consulting agency, right? And so, as women, sometimes I feel like we take this we try and bite the elephant versus just really like these bite-sized pieces. And so for somebody that's like recognizing they need to be on social media, they need to be doing marketing, but is not sure where to start small. Don't panic. Like a lot of times we think we don't have enough content, but even the content that we do have, the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories of our journey, the stories of how we've helped women, in our businesses. I even like to relate this everyday stories of me hanging out at track fields with my kids or shopping at the grocery store. All of that is content that can relate to your business. So start small, and then we think about what we have, and then being able to start with that.
So don't overthink it. Is that what I'm
Don't
hearing?
overthink it. Don't overwhelm it. We have enough to be stressed about. So let's not stress about social media.
Oh, yes. Well, and people come to social, they come to social to be social, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as long as you can talk to another human, you can do social media, and you
Yeah,
don't even have to
absolutely.
you don't have to be good at it for it to work.
Yeah,
We can always get better at it.
yeah, yeah.
So speaking of stories, what is your story? Why content creation? How did you get to where you're at now? Give us a little bit more of your backstory.
Yeah, so I started in the online space literally probably almost 20 years ago. I opened up an online clothing boutique called mydivashop.com. We focused on plus size women clothing. And at the time, it was so niche. And it was at the time when it was still like Yahoo groups and MySpace, and not the social media that we know today, but it was still social media where you had to go out and build relationships and go out and meet people that you don't know in person, but you just see a face, and learning how to communicate and learning how to draw in an ideal client, not even recognizing that's what I was doing. I was just out there trying to grow my business by leveraging the online platforms. So it taught me a lot about really niching, really speaking to your audience, really being clear about collaborations and partnerships. So that's where I started my kind of online journey. I have an accounting and finance background, and so I have launched over probably $3 billion in construction projects. And as probably one of the sole women in my construction firm, as well as a woman of color, a lot of times what would happen is I would be put in audiences because I was the minority and they needed diversity to say, hey, I need you to step on stage and talk about this topic, or I want you to lead this committee, or I want you to lead, this project. And what I love about accounting and finance, at least in my role, is that it was so broad that it led me to work with marketing, work with project development, work with other teams outside of just my 4 walls in that spreadsheet life, which I was not about at all. But what it also taught me is, learning how to, because I was ahead of, a lot of diversity and inclusion committees, a lot of times what would happen is that we would have money set aside to do work with women or to do work with, minority businesses, and they would be great on paper. But then you go look at their website, you go look at their social media credentials, and it just did not show off their brilliance. And we wouldn't give them the jobs. And so as I, just kind of transitioned away from accounting and finance, I really just have a heart for helping women and minority businesses grow by leveraging social media, showing off how brilliant they are. My husband and I alluded to it earlier, we have two nonprofit, we have a nonprofit as well as a for-profit youth athletic training organizations. And I built those over 12 years ago, single-handedly through social media. And so what would happen is that a lot of times, we're well known in our community. People will come to us like, your social media is great, like who's doing it? And it was me. And so 2 years ago, what I decided to do was really lean into my business skills, lean into my marketing skills, and grow my marketing firm. And so that's sort of the journey. I didn't realize that that was going to be the journey at the time. I'm sure none of us do, but I literally leveraged all of my business skills, community skills, as well as my online networking ability to be able to pour into my social media clients that I have today.
I love how it always comes full circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always working for us, even when we're like, what's happening? Like,
exactly.
I don't get this. Like 20 years. Holy.
Yeah, who would have thought, right?
It's awesome though. And like the construction industry from a female perspective is not an easy industry to be in.
Absolutely not.
So, kudos to you for being there, being a woman of color there. Like that's a big deal. We need more women in the construction industry.
Absolutely.
And, I think you're doing a lot, right? Do you feel like how do you manage it all? I think that's a question I get all the time from women. They're like, I'm trying to keep my head above water. Like how can I do all the things? So how do you do all the things?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And sometimes it does feel like your life is kind of put together by duct tape. And so you gotta recognize what season you're in. And sometimes you're in the season to grow. Sometimes you're in the season to grind. And sometimes you're in the season to just kind of like float and coast and be present in that moment. And so I'm in a season right now, like I have my twin daughters are 18, they graduate from high school this year. So that's like a really big, from a personal standpoint, it's busy from a scheduling standpoint, logistics, but I'm busy with my business as well. And so sometimes we have to think about, okay, am I in the season to really grow and like skyrocket, or am I in the season to just, let's duct tape this stuff together. We grow, in a nice way, a nice, profitable way, but not in a way that overwhelms us. The other thing that is huge for me is I don't try and do everything myself. Not in my business and not in my personal life, even just as basic as cooking dinner every night. I love to cook for my family, but some days I order takeout and I don't feel guilty about it. So I've sent my laundry out for cleaning. I don't feel guilty about it. But the same way we do that in our personal lives, we have to do it in our business. And so I have a business coach that I outsource my mindset to, that, kind of pumps me up, cheers me up sometimes. But then I have, coaches and people on my team that can help me serve my clients, so I'm not the only one doing everything.
I have never heard someone say outsource your mindset. I freaking love that. Like I am using that from now on, because sometimes you have to borrow someone else's mindset or belief or, or energy. Right. And so I love that I love that you're enrolling your coach in that, because that's awesome. I love that. So let's get to the spicy topic of how to plan 6 months of content in 6 days. My first question for the negative Nellies out there is, can you really do it? Like, can I really create 6 months of content in 6 days?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
You absolutely can. So the way that we do this with my clients, we do it with my social media domination management program. So and we walk them through my 5 methodology, which is looking at their business vision, their ideal client, and how we're attracting them. We look at their bankable content strategy, and then we also look at the execution. And so during this, mansion retreat program, there's prep work, right? And so the prep work includes being crystal clear on your ideal client. Where do you want to take your business in 6 months? What type of launches are you, holding? Are you going to be, launching a new coaching program? Are you launching a podcast? So we look at all that from a vision standpoint. We get crystal clear on your ideal client and make sure that your social media voice is the right one to message and attract them. But then we take a look at what do you have going on and then the content needed for it. And then we execute and imagine. And so during that experience, it's not just the social media part. That's awesome in itself, but it's also business building skills. But the women, they walk away with 6 months of branded photography, the captions, the lifestyle photos, commercials, video content, reels. We do reel day. They walk away with confidence to show up, but they literally walk away with 6 months of content, not just any content, but like really good, personalized, authentic, bankable content that they can plug and play into their business for 6 months, have it on auto repeat, and then we do it in less than 6 days. And so the clients that I have worked with have found tremendous value, not just from a business building standpoint. I mean, they've increased their authority, they've increased their income, but it also increases your confidence to just know, like, hey, like that's one less thing I got to worry about. Is showing up online and doing it in a fun, engaging way so that it's not so stressful and overwhelming, like we talked about earlier.
Like I'm speechless because that feels so much more enjoyable than what I like. Even I fall into this sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this week? Like, what do we have to post about? Like, it's so stressful, like, because you're in your day to day. Like, I always joke that I get so much done when I go on trips because I'm out of my day to day. I'm creative. I'm not in meetings. So like, is this experience, is it virtual? Is it in person? Like, tell us more about how you actually do it.
Yeah, so the pre-work piece of it is virtual, relatively small community, and it's awesome because I get to hand pick the ladies and the women that are participating in the program. They apply, of course, but I get to know all of them. And what tends to happen is that everybody in the room meets the other person. They just don't know it. And so during this, 6-week program, they get to know each other and they get to know each other's strengths and like, hey, like this person might be a good fit for my client, or this person might be a good fit for that program over there. And then the in-person part is where we do all the execution. And so we meet in a mansion all together. It's great because you get to kind of get outside of your comfort zone, right? Because sometimes, we're getting so used to working in our own space. You just need that fresh air without distractions. And so the execution part gives them that retreat feeling, but then also in a productive way, but it's distraction free from their home and family and stuff.
Well, and I think them leaving, they have to feel so relieved and like peaceful and excited and confident. Like, I'm thinking of all the words and they're all positive. Like,
yeah,
it's just like a badass. Like, yeah, I've got 6 months of content already prepped and ready. Like, watch out, world.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And the transformation that most of the women, they increased their business even before we got to the mansion. Just because it just one sparked the light bulb inside of them on like, here's some ideas, here's some ways I can implement. But then also just giving them the confidence to just really show up, like you say, as a badass, as the queen in their business.
Absolutely. I love that. So how often do you do the retreats?
Yeah, so I have 2 in 2022. I'm forgetting which year we're in, but in this year we'll have 2. So my next one will be September of 2022, and then in the next year, my goal is to have 1 a quarter.
Okay, I love that. That's so good. It's like, lock me in a room, Shanel, and I can't come out until I have 6 months worth of content. Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you offer some sort of virtual option just in case a woman like has, young children or just can't make the in-person? Do you teach this in a virtual way?
Yep. So there is the virtual piece of it, and it still walks them through the vibe methodology, still walks them through the content that need, and they also have access to my membership that gives them templates, that gives them all of the captions, the content. They just don't attend the actual in-person mansion portion.
Okay, awesome. Which I feel like they're gonna want to anyways. So we'll just put that out there. So if someone's sitting down and they're like, okay, I'm gonna try this on my own first. What's your advice to them of like how to start chipping away and creating 6 months worth of content?
Yeah, so the first thing that I recommend is really getting clear on the vision of your business. And you don't have to give me like the 5-year business plan or anything like that, but just even thinking about 90 days. Okay, in the next 90 days, what am I going to focus on? What do I have going on? Am I hosting a virtual summit? Am I, really going leaning into my podcast? So thinking about it from like an overall standpoint, right? And then thinking about, okay, who is the client design? What is this program? Who is it designed for? Being clear on the ideal client, so much so that you know the transformation that they're going to have, their behaviors, what they drink at Starbucks. Just being clear on your ideal client, right? Because then that helps us be able to tailor our language around the services we offer and how it can help the client. I like to think about like 5 questions that your ideal client has to know about you, your service, your business, your industry before they get on the phone with you or before they click that calendar link. The answers to those 5 questions now become like your 5 pieces of content, right? And you can mix and reuse them in a number of ways. So those 5 answers can become, reels, LinkedIn posts. You can do a Facebook Live and answer those 5 questions. Those are 5 different graphics. And it sounds basic when I say it that way, but even if you just take just those 5 answers to those frequently asked questions that that your ideal client is going to add, if you mix it up in different forms of content, that's probably almost 30 days right then and there.
Yes.
So let's just start with just those 5, and then you're now chipping away at 6 months of content.
I love that because it's going to save you time if you don't have to keep answering those questions in the DMs or on calls. So that's just going to speed up, hopefully, the sales process and get people saying yes even faster. So
yeah, absolutely.
So do you have a favorite social media platform?
I would say I hang out in a few places right now. I would say that I'm torn between Instagram and TikTok for a couple of reasons. So I like Instagram. I love Instagram. I like it from a visual standpoint. I love, obviously being able to connect with the audience using the short video and reels. But I like the way that you can really build trust and build up a relationship through the DMs. And I haven't found yet a platform that really kind of has that mix of variety. But then I love TikTok as well. TikTok is like the growing hot spot. But it's a really fun way to engage with your audience, show off your expertise, but show you're a real person, right? So that people see that you have a sense of humor, but they also just capture or grab your information in just a fun, engaging way.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like it's been refreshing the more real content has been created, because I think before, when like live video came out, it's like I must have the pretty backdrop and the light and the mic, and it's like I think TikTok just completely demolished that, and it's like you could fall flat on your face and it's going to go viral.
Exactly.
So it's made it more real, and I think easier for people to like, once they've learned the tech side, to like, okay, I can do this. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So I'm curious, what do you feel like to you does it mean to be wealthy?
Yeah, so for me, wealthy, of course, is money in the bank because it gives you flexibility to make certain decisions and to bring on help. But wealthy to me is living healthy. So, taking time out for yourself, like not always as entrepreneurs, it gets really easy to fall into that workaholic trap. I do it myself sometimes. Your office is in your home, right? So 10 o'clock, you get an email, you want to answer it, but really taking the time to just add in some self-care, some balance, making sure you're eating right, making sure that you are getting up and moving throughout the day. Those are things that I consider wealthy as well, because you can have all the money in the bank, but if you're spending so much time working and can't spend it doing what you love outside of your work, then where's that? It's not necessarily wealthy. It's really just being rich. And there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy in all areas. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
That's so good. That's so good. I feel like every podcast episode, all the guests have like these like one-liners that I'm like, I need to put on a t-shirt. It's so good. So you are amazing. If someone wants to sign up for the retreat, the program, how can they go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so the easiest way to reach me is at meetwithshanel.com. It gives you a video introduction so you can learn a little bit about the programs itself and other ways that you can work with me. And we chat and see if it's a good fit. And it's a 30-minute vibe consultation. So, it's no risk, but it does take you through just a overall video of what it's like to work with me, but then what you expect on the call as well. So that's meetwithshanel.com.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll make sure that's linked in the show notes to make it super easy for everyone. And where do you hang out most on social media so they can go follow you there?
Yeah, you can head over to my Instagram at Shanel.Evans. And Shanel is spelled with an S.
Yes, I love that. My full name is Janelle with a J.
Uh-huh.
So we're close in.
Uh-huh.
So, well, thank you so much for your time and pouring into all the wealthy queens. One last piece of advice that you just have that has just really resonated with you. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, show up just as you are. I think as women, we think we should be something. We need to do something. I should have done this. I should have done that. Or I need to be this. I need to be that. But your clients are waiting for you to show up just as you are. And when we show up as we are, we give our clients permission to show up as what they are as well. So show up just as you are.
Amen to that. So go out with your amazing day and go show up as you are today. Thank you, Shanel, for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.